I have now owned my Steam Deck for roughly 3 years, selling my CS knife at the time to afford the lowest tier original model back in 2022, so I wanted to take a step back and really look at these past 3 years and talk about my experience, what I liked, what I disliked, and things I wish I had known before buying this. We're going to be going over the portability, the performance, the comfort, and talking about some other options out there to kind of see, was this the correct purchase for me at the time? So first things first, let's start with why I got the Steam Deck in the first place to set a baseline of expectations. When I bought the Steam Deck, my main goal was to have a device I could play games on when I did not want to be sitting at my desk anymore. Whether that be in my bed, in the car, at my grandparents', or even sitting at the DMV praying that I can finally get this stupid Real ID everyone says I need. I wanted something that was portable as well as powerful. And it is all of that, mostly, but we'll get into that. So a baseline is set. Let's talk about the actual design of the Steam Deck first. My Steam Deck is the original LCD model. It is a 1280 by 800 LCD pixel screen, with the screen being 7 inches diagonally. It is 60 Hz refresh rate with a 40 watt per hour battery that says up to 8 hours of gameplay, but that has some serious asterisks around it that I'm going to explain later. The buttons are responsive and they feel good in the hands. They don't feel mushy, they feel very responsive, and they're rubber membrane, so you don't have any issues with wear-in so quickly. I did have to get used to the D-pad and the joystick being side by side to make room for the touch sensors that are on the bottom of the Steam Deck. But once I used it for a few days, it felt natural and comfortable. I didn't have any hand cramping issues. On the back of it, you have some programmable shoulder buttons, and on top of that, you can see the usual power, volume, and charging and headphone jack, as well as SD card slots. With the programmable buttons on the back, I haven't really used them that much. I programmed them once in Sonic Frontiers because I was messing around with some glitches, but other than that, I've used the Steam Deck in its standard layout, and I really do like the design of the Steam Deck, and while it is a little large and heavy, it does feel good in the hands ergonomically. The Steam Deck is portable, but not always convenient like I had hoped. I love taking it on longer trips or vacations, or using it as a way to kill downtime at night. I recently took it with me on a cruise, and it was great when everyone was doing something that I didn't really care about, or if it was late, I needed some downtime mentally to reset for another day of margaritas and walking everywhere. It was great. The problem is that taking the Steam Deck on short day trips or even just to public places on an errand run can be awkward. The Steam Deck doesn't really fit in my backpack, and carrying it in its case like a little briefcase just feels awkward and honestly just makes me concerned about dropping it or leaving it somewhere without thinking clearly. On top of this, if you're out and about with nowhere really to plug it in, the battery can kind of bite you if you're not careful with what games you play. Which brings me to another point about the Steam Deck, is the battery life is not very forgiving once you move past lower indie games. You are looking at 2 to 3 hours max when playing anything AAA like The Witcher 3, for example. This comes down to having maybe the original baseline model, but still, compared to something like an ROG Ally, this can be very frustrating. All in all, I do love the form factor and the ergonomics and the way it feels when I'm laying in my bed or in a hotel or visiting family. But when I'm on an errand run or it's a day trip, I just can't be bothered to lug it around. With that being said though, let's talk about one of the other major factors that you might care more about, and that's its performance. The Steam Deck is powerful. It can run most games you throw at it, with, of course, the limitations of its hardware. Taking a look at one of the more popular Steam Deck games, The Witcher 3 runs great. If you set the presets to the Steam Deck ones and you lock in at a solid 40 FPS like I've done, there's no real graphical issues, and the frame rate is consistent, leading to a smooth and very decent gaming experience. Another game popular on the Steam Deck is Cyberpunk 2077. Again, this game has presets designed for the Steam Deck, and you might have to do some minor tweaking to the resolution scaling, but once you tweak with it, it runs at a solid 30 to 40 frames per second, only dipping below 30 when you're driving through heavy traffic or there's at least like 10-15 enemies on your screen shooting you at once. AAA games will run on the Steam Deck and they are more than enjoyable, but for me though, I usually prefer games like that on my nice PC. I like all the bells and whistles. I like to make the games look as good as they can and to push them to their limits. I have found my favorite way to take advantage of the Steam Deck and its ergonomics and its very portable design is to play indie games. I have have found indie games run like a dream on the Steam Deck, and most indie games are designed in a way where playing in short 1 to 2 hour bursts is a lot more enjoyable than blazing through them in like a 5-hour sitting like I normally would. For example, right now I am playing through Fury and Celeste. These two games are fantastic looking on the Steam Deck screen, and they allow me to play them in those short bursts so I don't just blaze through them. Looking at Celeste specifically, I am running it no problem 60 FPS at high graphics. It's clear that Celeste is not a very demanding game, but it's still very nice to know that I have a portable PC that I can lay in bed and play Celeste for 2 hours without any issues and my battery not dying and then just going to bed. It has to me been the perfect way to clear out my playlist on Steam with these smaller games I bought while they were on sale and never got around to playing them. I also think it works great for roguelikes. Hades and Vampire Survivors are great examples of games I pretty much play exclusively on my Steam Deck now because it feels so natural, and it's honestly, to me, the most enjoyable way to enjoy them. I can quickly pop up my Steam Deck, get 3 runs in, and then move on. So, performance is great, with just an added note that I prefer indie games on it, and I leave my bigger AAA games to my main PC still. But that also leaves the note of game streaming, which I've only messed around with once or twice, but from what I know and what I've experienced, they've made significant improvements to the Steam streaming service that you use with your Steam Deck, and it honestly kind of can help the performance. If you really want to play your AAA games on your Steam Deck, I think streaming is a valid option if you want that little kick in performance. All in all, I do think the Steam Deck was a great purchase, and I do truly believe that it is a great mobile PC. I did need to go in with different expectations at the time, but looking back on it now, it was definitely worth the purchase I made 3 years ago. We do need to think about the other options that are out there if you are looking into getting a mobile PC. Things like the ROG Ally X and the Lenovo Go are 2 options that I think there are plenty of reviews out there that I can't do better than that you should look up, and I think they are great options if most of your gaming library isn't in Steam, as well as you have more wants from your mobile PC. You want something that can run Windows. You want something that has a bit more modability to it. I definitely think those are options that you should look at. I think though, with SteamOS being so streamlined and so user-friendly, the ergonomics of the Steam Deck making sense, and with the OLED models now, 2025 is no better time to purchase a Steam Deck. I very much believe in this purchase, and I don't regret it 3 years later. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed.